light gray trunks. They'll probably look white at home with the red trim. And Sherman Williams in the right with the yellow waistband.
Mouthpiece.
Big step up, I think it's fair to say, for Gerald Washington.
Yes, a very big step up. He's going to have to put in some rounds, I would believe, tonight. And Barry, in identifying the guys, why don't you just say the short guy and the tall guy?
There's that.
Sherman Williams, nicknamed the Tank. I can't understand why.
No.
5'10",
Where would
260.
you have gotten that from?
And what you look for from Sherman Williams is an overhand right. It's really virtually his only weapon. And believe me, Washington knows it.
Washington has done very well, but against very limited opposition thus far. Really late to the sport of boxing in general. Spent 4 years in the Navy, played football at USC just up the road here.
This fight likely to test Washington's patience because, as I mentioned in the open, Barry, Sherman Williams hasn't been stopped since 1999, and he's fought Holyfield and all kinds of top heavyweights. He doesn't often win. Sometimes he pulls off the upset, but he almost always goes the distance.
He has fallen into that role of kind of traveling opponent, but he never embarrasses himself. The one thing about Washington, and again, I temper this by saying he has not fought anywhere near the caliber that he's fighting tonight, but he's been a good finisher. When he gets his man hurt, he's usually gone.
That's the challenge tonight. One thing you see Washington doing right away here, he's sort of extending his left hand, and that's a comfort thing to keep Williams at the right distance, because he obviously wants Williams at a distance with the huge reach advantage Washington has. But by dropping his left hand like that, he's almost inviting that overhand right, which is Tank Williams' only weapon.
And you can see he just kind of paused with it and then drops it down around the waistband. Not much that Sherman Williams has not seen in a boxing ring. This fight's scheduled for 8 rounds.
Look out of it, guys. Look out of it. All right, stop. No punch. No punch. Straight back.
That's interesting, Barry. When they're in tight like that, you'd think that that would be Tank Williams' advantage. It's not. He really isn't an infighter. As short as he is, he wants that overhand right, and he needs some room to extend his right hand and land it.
30 seconds remaining here in round 1. There was that overhand right, but he was short. Not a lot of action here in this first round.
Some flailing from Washington. He really doesn't have proper balance when he throws some of those combinations. That's why he's a work in progress.
Stop the bell, gentlemen.
And there's the end of the first round. And I think Washington probably did enough to win the round. Take a look at the keys here.
Well, we'll begin with Gerald Washington. Feature the jab. He can frustrate Williams by capitalizing on that huge reach advantage. Stay busy. Washington's best bet is to beat Williams with volume punching. He needs to throw early and often. And use both hands. Washington can rely too much on his right hand. He needs to mix the left hook into the attack. And for Sherman Williams, careful early. Williams has so much more experience, and that will be an advantage only if he makes this a long fight. Overhand right. Offensively, Williams is very one-dimensional, as I mentioned. He should try that overhand right again and again and stay off the ropes, because if Williams backs up and covers up, he'll give away free shots, and he has to make Washington work for his punches.
John David Jackson, a very familiar face around the sport of boxing for many years, both as a fighter and as a corner man, in the corner of Tank Williams tonight. Round 2 of the scheduled 8-round fight. You talked about Washington being busy. He was not real busy in that first round.
And Williams' problem is he was even less busy, and he landed 1 punch, Barry. 1.
That will not win a lot of fights for you.
Come on, guys. Work out of it. All right, stop. Stop. No punch. Straight back. Come on, guys. You guys work out of it, right? Box.
Now both fighters are sort of just flicking out their left hands, not intentionally, not trying to score with a jab.
It's kind of a measuring stick. You can see the other thing that Washington's been after him does not set down on his punches real well.
I saw that exactly correct. We saw it in the first round that he flapped because his legs are not in the right position to get leverage. He's an athlete trying to become a boxer, Barry, and we've seen that a lot with fighters. We've seen it with Seth Mitchell, who's made big strides, and we'll see Seth Mitchell on Showtime Championship Boxing very soon.
There was a good right hand, but a good right hand returned by Washington, and he drops Williams. Williams scored with a right, and Washington came back with a right hand of his own.
Hey, come here. Right? Oh, no. Yeah. All right, slow. Box.
Barry, believe it or not, that's the first knockdown in 50 professional fights for Sherman Williams.
A long time, to say the least, a long time. It was a good clean shot with the right hand. And it came behind Williams' best punch of the fight.
Now let's see how Washington responds here. He was fighting a very patient fight. And it's important that he stays patient and doesn't think that he can drop tank Williams with every shot he throws, because I don't think that's going to be the case. But that's a stunner.
Very much so. Two good body shots by Washington. Drives Williams into the ropes.
Straight back, straight back. Box.
Williams still not, or rather Washington's still not very busy.
Well, you'd like to see the jab a little bit of it. And he's got that big reach advantage. And he's really not using the jab at all. He's using his left as a rangefinder. And I said he was right-hand happy in the keys. He's got to develop his other weapons, and the jab is critical at heavyweight because the difference in reach can be so big among fighters as it is in this fight.
And there again, you see exactly what Steve is talking about. He just kind of paused with it, just shows it to Williams.
And we talked about Williams not being very busy. Well, what did he get for his trouble in round two? He threw a shot, got counted, and got dropped. We'll take a look at it.
Good round, needless to say, for Gerald Washington.
We'll take a look at action from round two. This is a stunner. We didn't think this would happen. Watch Williams with that big overhand right. That's his weapon. What happened? Washington was just enough out of range, an inch or two out of range, so that the overhand right didn't land, and Washington's counter right did land. Super slow motion. There's the overhand right, and that right hand landed flush. It was sort of almost an uppercut, almost a right hook, actually, thrown by Washington. Williams going down for the first time in 50 fights.
And I thought Williams just kind of stayed there after he threw that right hand.